Okay. Hi, I'm Preston, and every Tuesday we have our Stroke Buddies Zoom meeting. Oftentimes they're what I call a recovery and science meeting where we bring on therapists and scientists and such to share good recovery tips. When we don't have guests, we do either talk or lately we've been doing these live physical therapy sessions. And no, I'm not a physical therapist, and today I'm not an occupational therapist either, but I did pretty good in my recovery and I learned a bit along the way, and I'm here to pass along what I learned. And so today we're going to talk a bit about functional therapy. Sounds complicated, it's pretty simple. Basically, functional therapy is using your affected side whenever and wherever you can. So in daily tasks, it's, there's a lot of things that we do. And after a stroke, you can hang around with your arm hanging down, or you can try and use it. Now, I mean, of course, any and all functional therapy is based on where you're at in terms of being able to function. For example, when I, did this whole thing with my affected arm, I remembered when I got sent home from the rehab hospital, I couldn't lift this bad boy off my lap. So that was the first thing. So functional therapy is not, well, you can start it at any time. Couple of things. Until you've got some movement, it's hard to do things like open jars or do the dishes or some of the things that we'll talk about today. But you can always, try and do things when you can't move that arm. Got some finger movement back. I used to grab, my affected arm by the sleeve and move it where I wanted to, and then try and do things. So let me see. I'm gonna pin myself here. So I'm full screen pin. There we go. That way, if I demonstrate things, you can see them a lot better. So I would grab my affected arm, and then I had use of, well, I had it where I wanted it. It didn't mean I had use of my fingers yet. Okay, one thing, a disclaimer, this isn't my therapy. I didn't invent functional therapy, but I did use it a lot. And one thing I will tell you is it's kind of frustrating. But then regular therapy was kind of frustrating. Whenever you can't do anything, I think we all get frustrated when we can't do anything, do something. And I think part of the reason we get frustrated is we wish we could do what we used to be able to do, and we're trying to get back to something closer to the normal we experienced before our stroke. Okay, so what are some simple examples of functional therapy that you encounter in day-to-day life? Won't get into taking a shower, but getting dressed. You can try and do everything with your one hand. I have a video on how to pull up your pants after you stand up from the toilet with one hand. It's pretty simple. I won't pull them down, but you just with one hand I can go from my left hip to my left hip. And so I'm going to do a Todd here. Todd from Saturday Night Live. You just go around and around and pull them up. Or you can try and grab on with your affected hand and do it more like you used to do it. The funny thing is, there's no map for how we don't have a map in our brain. We don't have memory in our brain from how we used to do everything, because pre-stroke, everything was automatic and you just did it. And so after you have a stroke, you're sitting there and go, I sometimes go, I feel like totally blank, and I'd go, what do I do? How do I do this? I'm still working on this with skipping. I can't figure out how to skip. I know I used to skip, because I used to skip on the way home from the bus stop for half a mile. But I stand there and I can't figure out how to start to get it going. So that's a bit of a problem. Let's start with just opening a jar. Something as simple as opening a jar of spaghetti sauce, of which I've already eaten. So I'm right-handed. I was right dominant and left affected. So probably pre-stroke, I would have grabbed the jar with my left hand and opened it with my right hand. What I decided to do, because I heard about in the rehab hospital, I heard about they didn't call it functional therapy, but they called it involvement. And what you want to do is, they said, was involve your hand in anything and everything you can do, which is basically functional therapy. So that's what we're doing today. So I don't know why it has nothing to do with the Olympics, but I came up with the term left-hand Olympics because I kept doing everything with my left hand, like opening the jar. And early on, oh, that wasn't very good. Dangers of live TV. Early on, what your brain's going to tell you to do is grab the jar and grab the lid, it wasn't fully on, and then twist the jar. Okay, that works. But if you want to get back to this twisting motion, which is not the simplest, you want to twist the lid and hold the jar still. However, if you twist the jar, it does get the job done, and because you have to hold on with your affected hand, and that's a start. So you've already got involvement going, even if you twist the jar. This is a balsamic vinegar jar. It's empty. I go through a couple of them a year. I'm doing all this. I won't keep repeating this. I'm doing everything with my affected hand. So I just took the lid off. When I discovered this one, I practiced with this a while because this really ups the ante. It's got a spring-loaded nozzle or pour spout there. So when you go to put the lid on, you have to push it down, and while you're pushing it down, you have to hold it right and then twist it. There we go. Oh, nope. Start over. I'm used to doing this lower. I'm used to doing it when I'm standing, so let me do it down here. So just more dangers of live TV. So that one's a lot more difficult. I also like this jar because it's square. So if you give it to somebody, like I used to work with people locally, if you give it to somebody, you can tell if they're twisting the jar big time because it's square. Something that's round is harder to do. If you were doing it with this, well, you got the label. So that's something else you can do. Well, I don't know, not everybody takes vitamins, but I do. So one of the things that I do, I still do this. I still do this stuff 17 and a half years later. One day I was at physical therapy, and they had a bunch of cones. We've all seen these cones. They put them on the floor and make obstacle courses you have to walk through, or else they have you get them up and down off the shelf. Sometimes they have you stack them up and take them off of stack up and down. So I was doing that at therapy one day. I came home, and we had a little thing with 6 containers that had the pills, so you just take out one thing and take out all 6 vitamins. But it was empty of a couple, so I got them. I started to get them down off the top shelf, which is where we stored them out of the way. And I realized this is the same as the cones on physical therapy. So because I was early on, I started taking them down and putting them back up 3 or 4 times every night, not using the multivitamin thing anymore. And I would take them down and put them up 3 or 4 times before he took the vitamins out. And then, of course, what you can do as you get better, in the beginning, you're going to hold it with your left hand, open it with your right, probably pour it into your affected hand. Step one, probably to put it over into your unaffected hand and take it. What I tried to do as soon as I could was open it with my affected hand, pour it into my affected hand. I got one, now it's way down here. Assume it's way in your palm. I just made it worse and harder. So then I worked on orientation, because you can do this. You can do this in the middle of your hand. I've seen a number of stroke survivors do it. The pill's in the middle of your hand there. I'm not going to take it because I already took it last night. Pill's in the middle of your hand, and you go like that. What I wanted to do was kind of get back to being able to push it out and orient it. And I got a screwed up finger on this hand on top of everything. Get it? Oops, can't see it. I can take it from there, but now you can see it. So I pushed it, I've oriented it all the way out to the end. Now you can put it in your mouth. Yeah, I've got a little bit of what Dr. Hetzler told me is an intentional tremor. When I go to do things, I get a little bit of shake. The funny thing is, as soon as I put my hand on something, I have no shake anymore. But if I go to it, I do. Don't understand it. Looked it up. Haven't found out any real way to cure it. So I've been living with it for 17 and a half years, 18 in April. A few other things I did. One thing that's really difficult after.
Wait, Ralph, I have a question.
Sure.
What if the bottle you're trying to open is really tight? How do you open a tight bottle?
Well, the spaghetti sauce and anything and everything's got this little round thing.
Mhm.
That you'll hear that pop. It's down when it's sealed, and then when you open it, it pops up and you hear it pop up. What do you do if it's really tight? You may have to hold it in your affected hand and open it with your unaffected hand, whether your unaffected hand is dominant or not your dominant hand. I've got this little thing, I call it Uncle Bob. My Uncle Bob made it. It's basically a V-shaped thing, and it has a hacksaw blade on one side, and the hacksaw blade, the teeth are made so when you open it, the teeth dig in, and so I can put that. You can also, it's also mountable under the counter. They make them. There's also there's also a $20 jar opener you can get on Amazon that you put it on there and it automatically opens something difficult.
Two other things you can do. This is something I did before I had a stroke. It was hard to open the top of a bottle. You could turn the hot water on in your sink and put the lid part under the hot water, and that will cause that to expand a little, making it more easy to take off.
Right. You just run the lid under the hot water.
Right.
Another thing you can do is you can bang them. Some people bang them on the sides.
We used to bang them on the side on a counter or something. That'll help loosen it also.
Right. You got to be careful not to bend them. And one thing you can do, however, you need to. One thing that is guaranteed way to open anything is to I'm not going to do it with my good Soligan knife. I brought that for other reasons, but I have a junk knife in the junk drawer, and occasionally I get one, and if you stab through the lid, and it'll break the air seal, and you can open it easily. However, now you have an air seal, so if you like spaghetti sauce, it takes me 4 nights to use this up with tortellini. So I try not to do it with something like that. If I have to, I just put a little piece of tape over it so you're not getting oxygen in there. So when you put the lid on, it's sealed. But if you stab it, you can always get it open, and you'll hear it, and you'll see the thing pop up. So that's how to do that. That makes me think about how to get into a plastic bag. Another thing I did a lot of was I would go to the refrigerator, and I'm just using a water pitcher with cool water, fill it up with it from the tap or from your water filter. And then what I would do would be, I would leave it on, I'd have it in I'd carry it over in my left hand, because it's hard to carry a full 4 or 5 pound water pitcher. It helps build up your wrist. And this one's not full, obviously, because I've got cats in here and I could make a mess. But what I would do would be I'd carry it over. This is the left-hand Olympics thing. Now I'm standing in front of the refrigerator. I'd transfer it to my right hand, open the refrigerator, leave the refrigerator door open, transfer it back, put it in the refrigerator, come back and shut the refrigerator door with my affected left hand. So in that whole process, all I used my unaffected hand for was when I got to the refrigerator to put it in there so I could open the door. I like I said, I'm still doing this 17 years later. Now what I'm trying to do is I'll come up with a jar of something, and I'll take out a finger and I'll hook it around the refrigerator and open it while I'm holding something. I also do this sometimes with, I didn't have keys and tools and things. A lot of times, if you're working outside and you got tools, back in the day, I'd carry the tools 50-50 in both hands. I probably came up and opened the door with my affected hand with a couple tools in it. I actually practiced this with a couple tools in my affected hand. It's really tricky opening doorknobs is a little tricky anyway because there's twist motion. By the way, if nobody knows about about water faucets, there's a exercise you do where you open and close water faucets. Like you're opening the hot and cold water on a bathtub before you flip it up to make it turn into a shower. That gets some of that rotation stuff going. Of course, one of the things that's real beneficial to do in functional therapy is to do regular therapy all the time, which I also did. I didn't like go in the kitchen and wash dishes just for the heck of it. Well, I did the first time or two just to see how I could do. And yeah, I used these plastic plates. I didn't use the good plates because these guys you can drop, and you will drop them in the beginning. The first thing to do with dishwashing is just hold them in your affected hand and wash them with your unaffected hand. As you get better, with your affected hand, it's a lot like wax on, wax off. You put the sponge or whatever here and try and wash them with your affected hand. What I do again is I do everything. So I'll pick them up, bring them over, wash them, and then I put them in the dryer rack with my affected hand. All this is, doing shoulder, elbow, arm, fingers, grab, how hard to squeeze, how to not let go. Speaking of letting go is one of the trickier things post-stroke. I just got a plain old, again, plastic. So if it dropped, didn't have to clean up glass and and break something that I wanted to keep. So I've got a little bit of a tremor when I come. So what I did was, see, I'm good right up until the very end. Of course, you want to fool people, you just grab, well, that wasn't very good. But I'm not interested in fooling anybody. So I would grab the glass and put it down and let go. It's not easy to let go in the beginning. I noticed this when I would also, one of the things I try and do is drink with the affected hand. That's not easy either, because again, you got this wrist motion going on. So while you're doing functional therapy, you also ought to work with your therapist or work on your at-home program and do stuff, to get this wrist back, up and down, twisting, left and right, all the things, Here was my philosophy and what I did. When I found I couldn't do something, I started it with the glasses, and because like when I went to put down my teacup in the morning, I didn't let go of it very well, and sometimes I kind of smashed it down, or didn't get it down level. And so if I didn't do a good one, I would pick it back up again and do it 2 or 3 times until I was happy with it. I did that every time I put down my teacup. Pretty soon, it didn't take 2 or 3 times. It took 1 or 2, and pretty soon I was doing better with putting it down. And as I kept working on with the glass on letting go, I got better at letting go. Okay, I'm jumping around here, of course, as things occur to me. One of the things was difficult for me. So we've talked mostly now about, other than putting your pants on or getting dressed, everything's had to do with your hands, not your legs. One of the things I did for a couple of reasons was I would walk and get the mail. I would get the mail rather than have somebody else get the mail. 2 reasons. It was more walking. And when I got the mail, I would carry it back in my affected hand. And whenever I didn't know how I would do things, I would, like one day when I was going, well, how did I used to carry the mail back in the house? So I grabbed it, oftentimes when I did this, I closed my eyes, I'd grab the mail and then just start walking and see how I had it. And I would hold it with my hand open and the mail down as opposed to up like this. Of course, one of the things that you want to do, that you don't want to do, but your brain wants you to do after a stroke is clutch everything. And what you want to do, if you can, is hold things out, don't clutch them. Reason being that this is a stroke pattern you don't want to play into. You're trying to fight your arm going up to your chest and hold it by your side and get full extension and lift it above your head again and all the various steps. So I found when I walked back with the mail, a lot of times I would drop the mail, or if it was mail inside of a magazine that was folded in half, sometimes it let up a little bit and the mail would fall out of the magazine wouldn't, but some of the items might fall out. You can always flip it over, but I didn't like flipping it over. To me I always worked on extension. And clutching is different than extension. Bring things towards you is different. So I just kept working to where I could hold it and I knew the right tension. Of course, after you drop it, you tend to like clamp onto it like you're holding on for dear life, and you don't want to, you don't want to do that. You don't want to walk around all clinched up all the time. So you got to train your brain to know, how hard to clutch something, to hold on to it, and also to pay attention to not loosening up or letting go. We tend, like if you try this with your unaffected hand, you'll find that it just automatically, because you've done it since you were a child, automatically adjusts the tension. It's just like if I fill this glass all the way up, almost to the tippy top, and then I walk up and down the steps or whatever, I won't spill any of it because you've got this whole system where your arm and hand and wrists and everything is constantly keeping that glass flat. Well, I got news for you. Well, probably not news for anybody who's tried it. You try that on your affected side, even if you don't have this tremor of mine. And first of all, in the beginning, it's hard enough to hold up a 16-ounce glass that weighs a pound of water in there if you have a weak wrist. So you got to overcome that. But it's one thing I still don't do very well. If I carry 2 full glasses of water, I'll spill some on this side.
If I could interrupt for just a minute there, Ralph.
Sure.
Yes, you talk about carrying a glass with water or drinking a glass of water. Edward Taub had that problem with patients. For those of you that are listening, he's the one that developed constraint-induced movement therapy. And to help his patients, he would have them start with a glass that's only, say, a quarter full of water. Can they lift that and drink that? And would gradually go up to making it more full, but he would have them start a quarter full or half full to lessen the likelihood of spilling.
Right. Well, and I did all those kinds of things, like I was showing before, in the beginning, you might do it one way that works for you. Remember, you got to get the jar open if you want to eat the spaghetti sauce. And then, build on it more and more. And you know a little bit more about Dr. Taub and functional therapy. For everybody out there, functional therapy has been studied. It's an effective way, scientifically, of getting better. It's also really, I wouldn't say easy because, like I said earlier, it's a bit frustrating when you can't do stuff. When I couldn't do stuff, I would just beat my head against it until I either couldn't stand it anymore or I was able to at least do it halfway to my satisfaction. Dr. Hetzel, before we started, you told me a little bit about Dr. Taub and this transferal process. So,
yes, Dr. Taub would have patients in therapy for 4 hours straight, 5 days a week, like from 8 o'clock in the morning till noon or from 1 to 5. That would be the therapy. But when they were not in therapy, he did what he called his transfer package, basically having them use their affected hand as much as they could. And he'd even hand out a piece of paper for them which listed activities of daily living, like turning on a light switch or pulling a chair or turning a doorknob. And you're supposed to write, well, with your unaffected hand, how many times a day you did that with the affected hand, looking for an increase in the use of the affected hand over time. So the idea was to transfer what was being learned during therapy to the completion of activities of everyday living.
well, I didn't know about Dr. Taub till about 4 years ago, but I applied a lot of his principles, not knowing anything about it, just because to me they were common sense. I said earlier that one thing I did was when when I couldn't put that water pitcher in all the way full, I went back to a quarter, half. I built up again, and I also did wrist exercises because when I went to put it in, I could tell it was my wrist that failed. So, and I also did 15-minute sessions 10 times a day. So I was definitely doing mass practice. I walked every other hour and every other and the other every other hours I alternated between my hand and shoulder, elbow, wrist, wrist, elbow straightening, wrist strengthening, wrist flexibility. And the hardest for me was getting the darn arm over my head.
So how did you do that? How did you get your arm over your head?
Well, basically, I did that with, and I still have it, this guy right here. Okay, I'm going to say the disclaimer that I always say. So I got a, what is this, 1¼ inch dowel. Also, by the way, back there I've got a piece of PVC pipe, a scrap piece of wood, a broom handle, a cane works, your cane works. So again, almost all therapy is built on, you're adding another brick on building blocks. So you can't really do this if you don't have any grip at all. It doesn't take a whole lot of grip, but basically, and you could even tape your hand to it, I suppose, if you wanted to. So basically, here's the problem. I noticed everybody, I finally found out the scientific answer. I noticed most stroke survivors could go to here, and they just can't go above. And the reason, so I'm always touching muscles in my body and seeing what's firing and what's not firing. I'll compare like my hips. I'll put my hands push right on the gluteus medius and walk, and I can feel my unaffected side firing more and moving more than the other. So I'm always fooling around. So I put my arm back here after I could do it, and I realized, oh, wow, my scapula is rotating. When you go to here, your scapula does not rotate. When you go here up above, your scapula rotates. I think what happens is we sit around and unable to move that arm for so long, those rotating muscles atrophy. And Dr. Samantha Amadeo and I were talking about this actually live in one of these Zoom meetings, and I brought this up, and she said, she even had a graphic on it, that there's a certain ratio for every amount of degrees that you move up, your scapula rotates. I think it's 1/6 of the amount. So in order to get that scapular rotation back, what I did was I started grabbing a dowel. Somebody, I think, had showed me this. And I started pushing up. And as soon as I got to level and started to push up, of course, you can move this without moving this. As soon as I started moving this shoulder, it hurt. It hurt like hell, in fact. So you have to be very careful, especially if you have subluxed shoulder or frozen shoulder. You always want to respect pain. And one thing you have to do in stroke recovery is learn the difference between a small amount of acceptable pain when you're pushing something and when you're pushing it too far. So that's real important here. If you have any pain, stop. Before you do this, if you have a physical therapist or orthopedist or whatever, ask your medical team. They'll probably tell you not to do it. But anyhow, so what I did was I would push and I would work it up. And then when it hurt, I'd stop. And I did it every day, 3 or 4 times a day. Well, if I did 10 or 12, I was do it 3 times a day because I'd work on my arm and shoulder 3 times, my hand 3 times, and I'd walk in the driveway 6 times. But eventually, I started walking in the neighborhoods. I got tired of the driveway and got to where I could walk farther. So I just kept pushing it up, and I got up to here, And then one thing I started doing was trying to pull it up without pushing it up. Whenever you're doing passive movement, what you want to do is be thinking about moving it with the part you want to get moving. In other words, you can sit here and passively and just push it up all day. But if you want to make those connections, the thing to do is mental imagery or mental practice. Think, which is also a proven technique, and maybe we get Dr. Hetzler to tell us in a minute when I finish this how and why that works. But basically, so when I'm doing stuff like this, I'm thinking pull it up while I'm pushing it up. I'm thinking about the movement in my unaffected body part, in this case, my unaffected shoulder, trying to pull. Because that way, you're not just, pushing up with the other hand, doing next to nothing. That probably will work eventually, but you're going to get you're going to build connections a lot more if you think about it. Think about moving. I do this when I do heel raises. I think about pushing with my affected foot. I don't think about my right foot. It'll do it automatically. When you do heel raises, because they're not 50-50. You're not doing it 50-50. So your affected leg is not doing as much work. And if you don't believe me, try doing one with your affected leg only, and you'll be a convert right away. So let's see. So what other things can you do?
May I interrupt? This is Ebe.
Yeah, I said.
I think the Saibo has something that you have shown right now. Can you see it? It is something to hold, and it has a strap for your hand. I'm not putting it on right now, but it's like the pole you showed. This is a Saibo. I got this from Saibo, and I can do what you are showing us. Thank you for your time.
No problem. So you actually can put your hand in there and you don't have to have grip?
Yes, you have to have grip, because right now I'm on. You put your fingers in this part, and your hand. Pardon me. I just wanted to show you that Saibo has it.
No, this is great. I thought I knew all the Sabo products.
And it has Velcro, so you can put. Right now, I'm not ready for it. It takes time to put it on, but I can put it on by myself. Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to share with
No, that's
others.
great. I'm gonna have to look that up because I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
I can tell you that Dell I was showing is 17 years old. A friend of mine put that black tape on it and got it all configured for me. The first week I got out of the rehab hospital, he came down and walked me and did a few other things. So yeah, so I didn't know Sabo had one. Again, I'm like I was saying, and it's got nothing to do with me. I'm just a noodler, and I'm real practical, and I think about things, and I'm pretty intense. So I ended up like somebody had said something about that, so I got a poll, and it said something about involvement. So I did what I call the left hand Olympics, which is functional therapy. I didn't know about mass practice, but I just wanted to get better.
Yeah, I think it's called the glider.
Okay.
It's glider. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'll look it up because every time I show that, I say you have to have some level of grip strength, and it would be good to be able to tell people about it who can't hold on yet, because you can work on that shoulder while you're working on the hand. A few other things I did was, other than washing dishes, the kitchen's a great place for functional therapy. You do a lot in there. You take things in and out of the refrigerator, you open jars and lids, you take your vitamins, I do anyway. You wash dishes, and you can cook. And I like to cook, and one of the things I started doing right away was cooking again, and my hand was all over the place. I could hardly hold anything. It was like, I wasn't quite like waiting till it and chopping, but I practiced at first just holding things with this left hand. I have never, not left-handed, and I got this bum finger. I never cut anything or did anything with a knife. I think it's dangerous to have a knife with a sharp point in your affected hand, because mine will jump around some. In fact, I've not cut myself since my stroke. Well, I punctured the skin once. I jabbed myself 3 times, and the way I did it was my left hand went crazy. Now I try and keep the knife pointed away from me all the time. Just a couple times I'd just have the knife, not paying attention to it, and his left hand would get jumpy or go crazy, and I stabbed myself 3 times, I think. One time broke the skin. So safety is always important. So whenever I'm doing anything like that, if you got a knife, you got a safety concern. So I always think about it. If I'm walking with one, I hold it like really loosely in my unaffected hand way out in front of me. That way, if something happens, I'm going to drop it away from my feet and away from me. Sometimes I wish I could stop my brain, but on the other hand, it's been kind of useful throughout my life, and also was particularly useful in stroke recovery, because when I can't do something, I get frustrated and I figure it out. See the plastic bag. One thing that I didn't figure out was telling Dr. Hetzler. I used to give a motivational speech, and I would carry one of these. I was talking about trying to learn how to redo things, and I would always talk about it. I would talk into the mic too. I would be talking normally, and I would go talk into the mic and go, the dreaded plastic bag. And I would pull one out of my pocket, because everybody who's had a stroke has wrestled with one of these suckers. Okay. So what I did for a long time was I was trying to figure out how to get, pinching, really fine pinching, and being able to not only pinch, but separate it while you pinch. That's tricky. Okay. So one time I don't know, about 3 years ago, my philosophy was, and of course this only works if you can do it. So my philosophy was to try and get back the movement and the motion and the coordination and the gripping and everything to where I could do things close to the way I used to do them, as opposed to adapting. Of course, you're going to have to adapt. And we've already talked about how in functional therapy, you do some adapting. You start out one way and make it more and more like the way you want to do it ultimately, but you can't right out of the box. You build on it. So anyway, it came up in one of the groups about doing different things one-handed and adapting. So I'm just going to show you something real quick here. More dangerous live TV. Okay, so if you look closely at most bags, they've got a high side and a low side. And a lot of times the high side has got ribs, like this one does. That makes it easier. So if you want to open a plastic bag one-handed, let me make sure I'm showing this right. I can do it without my affected hand holding it, but I'm just going to do it so it doesn't slide off. So you've got that high side. So you take your unaffected hand and just pinch the low side. Then you put all your fingers on the high side and you pinch and you pull up, pinch and pull up, push down with 4 fingers and pull up. I did it easily earlier. There we go. And you separate it, and then you can put your hand in it and open it all the way up. And then if you need to, you can put it down and you can seal it one-handed too. The only problem is if it's full of something, if it's real full of something, it's hard to get this thing flat. But you can also, you have to be able to hold it again, or else prop it here and kind of hold it and just pinch it. And then when you're done, if you can do this, you can hold it and make sure. You'll always be surprised how many places didn't get sealed. Anyhow, so that's not functional therapy, but how to open a plastic bag one-handed. So let's see, what are some other leg things that you can do? I mentioned walking the mailbox. I did a lot of intentional walking, just going out in the driveway and doing laps. It's not really functional therapy, but walking is a function that you want to get back. And so I would recommend doing any and all walking that you can. One of the things I did do to do any and all walking that I could do, I sat home a couple of times right after I got out of the rehab hospital while my wife went and did errands. And you get bored sitting around. So then I went to do errands with her. And I sat in the car and once, and then I said, this is crazy. I'm out of the house and I'm sitting in the car. So I just thought, well, I'll go into the store and I'll get a shopping cart and I'll walk around. I was walking with a cane pretty well, decently, nothing pretty, but fairly safely about a month after I got out of the rehab hospital. I couldn't walk. Before I left the rehab hospital, I took about 10 steps on my own, and then I walked out of the darn place with my physical therapist next to me for safety. They required it. They were trying to stop me. I said, oh, perfect, because she's the reason I'm going to walk out of here. I wasn't going to be stopped. But then I was faced with, like I mentioned, a friend who made that pole came down and walked me for a week, but my wife couldn't. She was teaching school, and so I was faced suddenly with walk or don't walk. And so I just started walking on my own, and they gave me a single point cane, so that's what I walked with. I ditched the cane in about 2 months, so I was able to, get into the store on my own with single point cane. If you're using a walker, you could use the walker and go walk around the store, or use it as like a shopping cart. So I would go in and get a shopping cart and I would just walk around the store. The second time I did this, I went to Home Depot with my brother-in-law, and we were picking up various things, and he'd say, I got the cart, and he'd say, I'm going to go to hardware. I said, I'll meet you there. I'd get there right as he's getting ready to go. I'm going to go get a bag of cement. Okay, I'll meet you over there. He'd go and get the bag of cement, and I would walk over there. We were loading stuff up in his cart, not mine, but I was just using the shopping cart as a walker and getting out of the house, getting out of the car, doing, my version of errands at that point. And it led to me being able to do errands. I was able to drive after about 3 months, and it led to me being able to do errands. And anybody who doesn't know it, a shopping cart is one of the best walkers there is. If you hold it out in front of you, there's no way. I've tried. If you keep your arms stiff, if you pull it in all the way, which is awkward, you might be able to hit your shins on the bottom bar. But if you just hold it normally, there's no way you can hit the shopping cart, the wheels or the crossbar with your shin, or the wheels with your feet. You have to work at it. So they make a great way of getting a lot of walking in that's safe while doing functional things. In my case, when I got to where I could shop, I was willing to do the shopping. I was always willing to do the shopping. It wasn't like I didn't do it. Suddenly I did do it, but it became another part of functional therapy. One other thing you can do is, let's see, how do we do this? So when you're getting in a car, I'm left affected, so when I get in a car, I usually sit down like this, get my unaffected leg in. Now you got the whole problem of, and I can do it now, of lifting that affected leg into the car. Well, in the beginning, you can't. I mean, you can hardly move the darn thing. So one of the things I would do would be grab my pants or shorts. If they were shorts, you can come at the end of the shorts and grab them and give it an assist. Help it, move it in. And again, whenever you're doing passive movement, helping it move, you'd be thinking with your hip here, thinking about lifting that sucker into the car while you're assisting it, because that'll help build connections. I'm sure there's more things that you can do with your leg. I just jotted down a few before this meeting. I probably could think of a few. Anybody out there want to think of? Tell us how you kind of
Ralph, wait a
functional.
minute. Ralph, if you're going in the car on the right-hand side, how do you lift your leg up to go in the car?
Okay, well, there's 4 different versions of this, and that would be passenger left affected, passenger right affected, driver left affected, driver right affected, because they're all slightly different. Well, one thing that's real helpful is, hang on a minute here. I'll call up something and show you. A picture's worth 10,000 words, not 1,000. Got all the wrong windows open. Okay, here we go. So history, I just closed it out. History, no, heck, I'll just start it again. Went in my history. Amazon. I happen to have it in my cart because I'm going to make a video on this. So go to my cart, shopping cart. I'm going to buy a couple of these because I'm going to make a video on this. And let's see if they show you how to use it. Yeah, it goes into the, every car made has the same exact, that piece of metal right there. Oh, I'm not showing you guys. Whoops, my bad. Share the screen. Okay, every car out there has that piece of metal that this, I guess let me show you this thing, what it looks like. It's a pistol grip, and it goes in the door handle, and like that. And every car has one of those, that square thing. They're all the same in every car. Every car I've had has the exact same piece of metal. Somebody's making them for all the cars, or they follow some convention. So you can put that thing in. Now, it works real well for people who are right affected getting into a passenger side because they can put their left hand on it because it's behind you. It's not to the front where the hinges of the door are. It's on the back where the door closes. So it's one thing to use it if you're right affected. You grab it with your left hand, put your left foot in, and then you can pull your right foot in either by sitting down and dragging it in or grabbing your pants or whatever. These are a real big help. Of course, if you're left affected, you come up to it, it's on your left. So the solution there is to sit behind the driver, and then it puts it on your right side. And so I'm going to actually shoot all this in the car and how to get in and out of a car. I mean, they teach you different ways. I mean, the first way they teach you is, let me stop the share and go full screen again. Where is stop the share? Okay, stop, there it is. One of the things they teach you, and this is in the car, what they'll have you do is basically put your butt in first and then work on getting both of your legs in. As I got better, I did that a few times. As I got better, I wanted to, most of us pre-stroke stepped into the car with one leg or the other, depending on what side and whether you're dominant and whatever your brain thought was automatic. So I started teaching myself how to step into a car. And I didn't have, well, Kevin had one of those pistol grips, so I had access to one. I didn't know about them early on in my recovery. So I didn't have one. So, and you're left affected, right, Winnie?
Right.
Yeah. So getting in a passenger side for you, the pistol grip isn't going to be a whole lot unless you can grab it with your left hand and use it to steady you. It's basically a steadying device. If you don't, I mean, where I haven't had them, I've had people, I've had survivors hold on to the top of the door. Whenever I do that, guess what I do? I hold the door all the way open so the door can't move, because the door can move and you don't really want to be holding on to something as your safety if it can move. So, but I was also, whenever I was transporting people, I was also, when we got in and out of the car, was also an opportunity to teach them more and more about how to do it and make them practice, because you can't get in and out of a car for somebody else. You know, if you're taking somebody to a doctor's appointment, I used to I worked with 12 local stroke survivors, 14 in all, but 2 are in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And about 5 or 6 of them, I was also their patient advocate. I took them to doctor's appointments, got their meds, did their meds, set up appointments, all kinds of things. But so sometimes we do stuff like go to a doctor's appointment, go shopping, go to Dollar General, go to CVS. So, well, CVS, you got to drive through. But typically what I would do would be, I'd have them get out of the car everywhere and go in with me, because it's more and more practice. Practice makes perfect. That's why mass practice works. So,
may I share what I do?
Sure, absolutely.
Getting off the car, it's the same as going into my bathtub. It's the same challenge. So I sit down and I lift my leg as much as I can, and I move it to the left side. And then I bring my leg and I do it to the right, lift it all the way up, and then move it to the right side. And that really has helped me to be comfortable to go into the bathtub, and to also has helped me moving into getting on a car and getting off the car. Thank you.
So you're doing what I've been talking about. You're thinking about it and trying to lift it while you're assisting it, because
That,
that's and you started and you're noticing a difference probably.
yeah,
That's because it works. You're building connections. I mean,
yeah,
eventually, if you just grab that leg and honk it in without thinking about it, it's movement. All movement's good. So
mhm,
getting in and out of the car is a lot better than sitting home when, your partner or somebody says, "Hey, you want to go shopping?" And you say, "Nah, I'll just stay here." It's always better to get out, do things, whatever. So that was my philosophy. If I couldn't do something, I would beat my head against it until I could, or or do do the wrist strengthening or whatever it took to do a better job. So it's kind of a whole thing where you do your therapy, you try and transfer, like Dr. Hetzler told us, Dr. Taub said, he actually had a sheet. That's basically accountability. I've always been accountable to myself. I didn't need to know how many times I opened a jar or whatever. Every time I had to open a jar, I opened the jar. And I used my affected hand for virtually everything. So I couldn't really do any more. And in the beginning, I would take my pills like that, and I would drop them half the time, or I'd go to pour them out, and I'd pour out like 20 vitamin D. Those little vitamin D suckers
mhm.
they're tough. I poured them out. Actually, I have a video on it I've never edited, and I poured out the vitamin D all over the stove. And my camera guy goes, "Take two," and I go, I'll pick them all up. I'm gonna leave it in the video. And I picked them all up and put them back in the jar and then took the one. So, but this process is also frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's no more frustrating than like going to physical therapy and not being able to do something. And also, you don't have anybody looking at you. You can do it over and over again. You're in charge. So I like that aspect.
Thank you for your guidance because it's been inspirational to me.
Well, I'm glad. That's one thing that we try and do as a stroke survivor trying to help others. There's a couple things you want to do. You want to give some people some hope. When people see some of the things I can do, they go, "Okay, if he got there, maybe I can get there."
That's right. Mhm.
Now, I never give anybody what I would call false hope. Never tell anybody. People ask me all the time, how long is it going to take me to get better? Am I going to get better? Okay, I don't know how long it's going to take you. Are you going to get better? That depends on a lot of things. The severity of your stroke, your personality, how much time you put in. There are a lot of factors, and I don't have a crystal ball. I've got jars and glasses and pill jars and knives and plates and all kinds of stuff. Oh, look, another thing you can do is do the laundry. Partners, if you have a partner, they'll love functional therapy. If you go washing the dishes and chopping up the vegetables and trying to fold the laundry, folding the laundry is a real pain in the ass in the beginning. Real frustrating. But one thing you can do is like t-shirts. I lay them down on the bed, face down, and then I fold the two sides in, and then I fold them up into thirds. Before the stroke, I probably would grab them, fold the two shoulders. You could do them all kind of in midair. It's actually a really cool trick where you fold them diagonally, and then you grab the opposite corner, and it folds it all up in one. I watched the YouTube video, but I couldn't do it. I didn't spend more than about 1 minute trying to do it because I do my own laundry. So, So in my post-stroke life, I drive, I do all my own shopping, I do all my own cooking, I do all my own dishes, I do all my own house cleaning, I do all my own yard work. Yard work is one of the best, if you can do it, it's one of the best functional therapies out there. Why? Because of the concept of functional therapy. See, I'm back up and I'll go back to yard work. One of the things about what makes it good, what made it work for me and why I like it is you have to do these tasks anyway. And and you end up doing a whole lot more therapy during the day than if some people go to therapy once or twice a week and don't do anything else. I think you should have a whole home therapy program and be working those wrists and marching and doing heel raises and building up that leg and everything. And even beyond that, functional therapy, you can fill in all the gaps by doing stuff, opening jars and whatever. Now I'm thinking about when I pump gas. When I pump gas, I practice balancing on my affected leg while I'm pumping gas. Now all pumps pump differently, and I know that. I typically go to the same pump. So it's sort of the same, but what I try and do is I watch and see. I think my record's $30 standing on one leg. And you got the car there. You can always touch the car if you need to. So there's a million things you can do during the day I also do that balancing on my affected leg, or I do when I do those counter lunges now while my dinner's in the microwave. I put it in for 3 minutes, and I do 3 minutes worth of counter lunges holding onto the counter. And yeah, I'm going to make that video too.
Okay.
Sooner or later, if I can get out of the weeds from adminning groups and back to. My life was simpler when the groups weren't so big because I had time to do the videos and things that I love to do, and now I don't have so much time. But we're working on fixing that, and anybody knows somebody who wants to be a personal assistant and help me, send them my way. Because I can do a lot of things beyond what I'm doing, adminning all the groups and things that somebody else could do. And right now I'm like the only admin. We got a couple of, I think Shelby's like at some competition or something. I noticed she hadn't been in a group in 6 days, so. That group gets 50 people a day that join it. I got to look at every single one of their profiles so we know any spammers. Anyway, I'm not complaining, but I will get to do that lunge video. I've actually discovered that my suction cup thing, you can go in a corner and you can do marching and everything on a standard counter height. You don't have to have the high bar thing. So
Great.
I'll make some videos. Do you have a suction grab bar?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. Well, make sure I have the one from Home Depot. It's 16.5 inches long. If you put that in the corner, the two corners as close as you can to the edge at a 45-degree angle, then you have enough room. Like if you go to hold onto a counter, normal counter, coming up to it square, and you try and do marching, your knees will hit the cabinets right away. But if you go crosswise like that in the corner, now you have to have a corner in your kitchen, and stick it down good. You can march, you can do squats, you can do lunges, you can do a lot of things because it gives you enough room to raise your legs without hitting the counter.
Okay.
So those will all be coming. Anybody got any questions? Hey, Linda, I didn't see you join us. Grandbaby's now
Hi, Ralph.
3 months old.
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions?
Only abundance of blessings to all.
Well, it's that season, isn't it? Actually, you know what? We shouldn't have seasons. We should treat each other like it's the holiday season all year long, I think. And
Exactly. Christmas is every day.
it's every day. It's, well, life's what you make it. We tend to get real busy with work and other things and forget to count our blessings and appreciate the people around us as much as we should. But that's a whole nother subject, and I don't want to get up on that high horse. I've been known to get up on high horses pretty easily, because I've always got a better way. But I always also say, if you and I ran the world, it'd be a much better place if we wouldn't get any sleep, because there are a lot of problems. Okay, so, well, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and let's see.
Thank you.
And the stream, and all right, so we're not streaming on YouTube anymore, and I'm gonna stop the recording.